Welcome to episode 9 of Objectively Biased. Happy holidays, everybody. This is Wilder Adams alongside River Brown and John Tortorelli. And today we're just keeping the show simple. 2 long topics. We are going to start with a 2021 NBA Redraft, maybe the most, elevated draft class among all the ones in this year. A lot of 2021 guys are really starting to take their full stride. And we're also going to talk about some stars who could be traded toward the deadline. What are some good destinations and just what we think about those stars. So, what's going on, guys? How was your Christmas?
Merry
Amazing.
Christmas. Merry Christmas,
Christmas.
fellas. Hope you guys had a wonderful day with your families. My day was pretty good. Got to chill with my son, chill with my dad, my aunt, my grandmas, my twin cousins. Got a little bit of we played some fun games, ate some good food, and I'm just excited for the new journey. 2025 is coming up. We had a great slate of games on Christmas. I thought, people were complaining about the slate, but we actually got a really shit ton of fun games. And John Steelers got croaked on. So I had to bring that up.
I didn't watch. I was watching this. I was watching the Spurs Knicks game.
Yeah, I bet you were. But just happy to be here. Excited to put in this work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, I had a great Christmas. Mine was jersey in the back. Mine was jersey in the background. I don't know why they're getting up. I forgot to take them down. My Christmas was great. Had a lot of good presents, some quality time with my family, and of course, watching great basketball. Watching two of my favorite players, Victor Wembanyama and Mikal Bridges, go back and forth. Then we got the Suns Nuggets game. Unfortunately, Denver did not get the W, but it was still a good game. And again, it's an exciting time. 2025. It's kind of weird to reflect on the last 5 years, how much changed around the NBA, because it felt like yesterday was the 2019 off season where Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are becoming Clippers, and Anthony Davis is going to Lakers. But that was 6 years ago, and it's kind of odd to reflect back and say to yourself, damn, that was over half a decade ago. And I was a little bit sick on Christmas, unfortunately. So if I sound like I'm talking with phlegm in this video, I do apologize.
That's what the Steelers getting their ass whooped does to you, brother. Makes you sick.
I'll be right back in a second. Give me 1 second.
Okay, so John is off the show now momentarily, but yeah, guys, I had a pretty good Christmas as well. It was pretty weird. Yesterday's Christmas was pretty chill. Almost watched the Timberwolves blow a 28-point lead on Christmas Day. That would have been the Grinch Stole Christmas. Some Timberwolves fans are calling Chris Finch Chris Grinch right now, so we can move forward with that. But yesterday was pretty chill for me. Just watched some basketball. I actually, leading up to Christmas though, I drove to Amish Country, Ohio, to pick up a new puppy for my sister. So
how far is that from where you are?
13 hours.
What?
Yeah, 13 hours. We drove.
I beg your pardon? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
So Minneapolis to kind of around Columbus area, a little north of Columbus, about 13 hours. We drove it in one night, and we didn't know much about the pet owner. We got scammed a couple times, so we were like, we're definitely not getting scammed. And this guy, I'm not kidding, we were like, please verify this dog is freaking real. So then we tried to FaceTime the guy, and he was like, sorry, we don't do that. And we're like, why in the world don't you do that? And then we were like, fine, just send us a picture of the dog with like the ear lifted up. And they did that. So we're like, okay, we think this is real. Let's drive all night to Ohio. So we did that. And then we go to the town he told us to meet him at, and we see horse carriages everywhere in the parking lot. And everybody dressed in, traditional Amish clothing. And I'm like, holy crap, this guy was Amish. That's why he couldn't FaceTime. But, yep, so we drove to Ohio
I don't get it.
for an Amish puppy.
Why can't an Amish guy not FaceTime?
I think it's an internet availability issue. I could be totally wrong. This just deleted.
I'm so confused.
It's so weird because we connected with him on Facebook, right? Mm-hmm. So we were like, we didn't think about that possibility, and we still don't understand. The individual, super nice guy, his name is James, so same name as me, and he has a flip phone. I don't know how he does the Facebook thing. I wonder if there's like a local library or something. I'm not sure. Yeah. But yep, we communicated with him on Facebook, and we got an Amish puppy. So
that's elite.
There's a flip phone.
Yeah, he has a flip phone.
I'm missing something in this story.
That's elite. So based off my limited research, some Amish people do have limited internet access. Maybe not in their homes.
Is it because of like where they are, money, or just?
It's a culture thing. They don't use modern technology really.
Oh, okay. I was confused.
They don't have like, I'm not kidding. Like this town, which is purely Amish, pretty much. Mm-hmm. I saw a couple cars, and I saw almost entirely horse carriages.
Yeah, that's kind of tough.
And you go inside and you're like, I feel this is the coolest thing ever. I'm talking to people who, they're dressed very traditional, like, Amish style, looks like a couple hundred years old. I fully respect that culture. It's very pure, very cool. But it was just cool. It was like, whoa, this is bizarre. This is amazing. I've never been in this environment. So we didn't even have any idea these people were Amish. So we didn't know what to expect. So all of this was like, whoa, what in the world's going on? So it was cool. But that was basically what happened for me this Christmas. But it was fun. It was pretty good. And now I think this is a good way to transition to the 2021 NBA draft because
what the fuck? That's insane. Like, I can't live like that. Nah, I'd be sick. Like, what do you do all day? 2021. Let's do it.
I mean, it's 2025, right? But man, I still can't believe it's amazing people still live like that today in America. It's amazing. Yeah. It's truly amazing. It's no judgment. It's just really cool. And see what it looks like in 25 years. I would guess it looks exactly the same. But let's go to the 2021 NBA Redraft. How do you guys want to do this order this time? Do you want to go back to Riv number 1 because he's the oldest?
Riv does not get the first overall pick. I know he wants it, but he don't get it 2 times in a row.
John,
I just feel like
have
the old guy of the group. I get the seniority.
You don't get it every time.
All right. You know what? It's fine, John. I get it. We'll let Sicky get it. So Sicko.
No, we'll let James get the first overall pick.
I don't want the first overall pick.
We'll get the third.
James, as a matter of fact, you get the number 1 pick.
I want the number 2 pick because
I know you do. But here's why you should get the number 1 pick, because I remember me and you had a conversation last year. Was it last year? It might have been last year, and we would talk about Cade Cunningham. And you disrespected the fuck out of him. You absolutely disrespected my brother's name. And I tried to tell you. I tried to give you hints. I tried to give you the benefit of the doubt. You just refused to listen to me. Now you're sitting here, and you will go first. You will be the number 1 pick.
All right.
Yeah.
And I would love to know who are you going to take him. So you're on the board.
Detroit. Fine. With the first pick in the 2021 NBA Redraft, the Detroit Pistons select Scott Cade Cunningham. Detroit Pistons. All right, so
explain yourself.
I'll apologize to Cade Cunningham because my thinking for him was first 3 years of his career, what is his elite skill? That was always my question. And offensively, you see the scoring, and you're like, okay, he's not a great rim attacker yet. He's not a great shooter. Solid. Obviously, we've come to learn that the spacing was a bigger detriment to the playmaking than his actual production in that situation was. But now we're seeing this year with more spacing, Cade Cunningham's playmaking has become his superpower. And now everything for him has become easier. He's averaging almost 10 assists a game. His efficiency is at a career high, shooting nearly 40% from 3, nearly 45% from the field. I mean, almost 90% on the line. He's been an efficient 3-level scorer, and his playmaking has opened up everything as a scorer. And I think he's got a little more juice to him. He's probably healthier than he's ever been because he's showing some things. Like, I remember he had this one play earlier in the year, and he goes like spin up and down scoop. And I'm like, hey, Cunningham, what you on, man? Like, I've never seen that before. So he's still not a great finisher, around 50% at the rim, but he's getting better. And I think he's one of the rare guards who can score from at least 2 levels, be a primary playmaker, and also guard late in games. And I think Detroit, with where they're going, I don't see them make any change here. There's a few guys who are in that group, I would say, because of how well they're playing. But I don't think Detroit does anything different with how they're doing right now.
Yes. Wow, we've come full circle, man. Listen, I appreciate that. And I want to say we're not always right on here. You know what I'm saying? We all can take our L's. And, the most important part is admitting when you're wrong, swallowing that pill, and, coming back with a different tone. John, do you want the second pick, or shall I take the second pick?
I'll take the second pick.
Of course you were going to take the second pick.
You're going last today. My impression. I do want to start off by at least kind of building off that point with Cade. It's really been an awesome year to watch him play because not only has Detroit given him some competent veterans that can get to like 16th in the NBA in 3-point shooting to help Cade kind of get his production up, but it's also that second year coming off that shin surgery he had. Where last year is his first year coming back after nearly missing his entire sophomore season. So with this breakout this year, it's almost like it's not even his fourth year in the NBA. He's really in year 3 when you look at the reps. So I think that's really the shoe-in first overall pick, because what he is an elite playmaker and a high-level scorer. And I look at who I think you were talking about, Scotty Barnes is the number 1 overall pick maybe a year ago in this draft class. I think that's the type of guy who maybe doesn't have that elite standout skill like Cade. So now at the 2nd overall pick.
I'll rebuttal that point real quick. Can I do that?
Yes, yes, you can. I love this.
Scotty Barnes is still one of the very best playmaking wings in basketball. Scotty Barnes could be one of your best 2 defenders on a fantastic defensive team, and the guy can freaking pressure that rim like an MF, man. I mean, that guy's still in that conversation. I wouldn't take him over Cade, but I would disagree and say he doesn't have an elite skill, because I think he does a couple things quite well for his archetype. And if he adds a little more perimeter juice, which he's doing a little bit, he could be right in this conversation.
That's fair. I guess I really look at his 3-point shooting fall off this year, and that's kind of what leads me to be a little bit more.
I just don't know what position Scotty is. Like, what is he?
Yeah,
That's Scotty Barnes.
That's for me. I feel like guys who are top picks who are kind of like positioned to where they have to play 1 through 5. It's really rare for those type of players to really succeed. I feel like with Cade, you kind of establish he's your guard. You know, he's your playmaker. He's your initiator. With Scotty, they've tried different things. First, he was playing off of Siakam and the boys when he was first there. Then he was playing a little bit of guard. Now he's playing, you know, a little bit on guard, off guard, wing. So it's like I just want him to define what his role is, define his position. And then once he can do that, then you can really define. Because when you're certain positions require certain skills to be elite. Like as a point guard, you know, you require a guy to be a great to elite playmaker, you know, a really great passer, you know, a great shooter. As a shooting guard, small forward, you want him to be a great shooter. So it's like for Scotty, figure out your window. It's great to be a jack of all trade, but find that one thing that you could really stick to. But John,
he's a big playmaker.
He's a really big player. He's a really, really good playmaker.
Yep.
Ben Simmons archetype.
Nuts.
So,
yeah, if you kind of compare to Ben Simmons, I think your view on him will shift a little bit. With the 2nd overall pick, this one is clear to me. Evan Mobley is someone who I think gets underrated all the time. That includes this year. This is a guy who makes you a top 5 defense. He comes in for a Cleveland team that was one of the worst in the league on that end. And then by his rookie year, playing alongside Jared Allen, next thing you know, that's an elite defense. He can play the 4. He's gotten better playing the 5. And offensively, we've still seen some gradual development. Even if it's not entirely all come together, we're seeing more 3-point attempts. We're seeing him get more looks at the rim. This year, he's averaging career highs in points per game at 18.5. And I think the playmaking as well is something that has kind of been untapped. I feel like he can get up to 4 assists a game if you put him in a situation where the offenses run more through him. But of course, in Cleveland, you've got one of the best backcourts in the NBA, and the usage that they'll command will kind of mitigate the opportunity for Mobley to really accelerate and expand that role.
So, a couple things. First of all, for anybody who thinks Evan Mobley hasn't improved because of numbers, need you to watch Cleveland Cavaliers games. Tap in a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
He's improved in just his control at getting to the rim. The jump shot looks more improved. The decision-making off the pick and roll. I mean, just his ability as a scorer in the post. Last year, you've seen him get the ball against stronger defenders or a little bit smaller defender. He's bobbling the ball. He doesn't have much control. Now you see him more poised. You see him more in control. You see him more understanding of just how to beat defenses one-on-one, which he didn't have last year. He looks a lot more tougher than how he looked last year. And then defensively, he's been a top 10 defender in basketball since he walked into the league. No, I'm saying just first year, top 10, last 2 or 3 years, top 5 in basketball. I mean, this dude is just an elite all-around defender. My question is, Houston, if I'm not mistaken, took Green here, then traded OKC for Sengun, because I think Sengun was 16 to OKC.
Yeah, they traded for 2 first-round picks.
They traded to get Sengun. Do you think about Sengun here at all if you're Houston?
You definitely think about him.
But you take Mobley. No. Take Mobley always.
I'm taking Mobley pretty much every time. The only person I would consider at number 2, other than Mobley, is Franz Wagner. He's the only one.
Not Scotty?
That's because Houston, you watch this year, the one thing they're missing is a high-level half-court creator. That's what they're missing right now. Mm-hmm. And Franz Wagner is the best in the draft at getting his own shot in the half-court, even including Cade Cunningham. So that's how I look at it. So Evan Mobley right now, though, number 2 pick, the right pick. He's the best floor raiser in the draft. And I would say he has a case for. He has a case. I'm not saying he is this, but he has the case for the most well-rounded big in the league. He has that case.
I get why you say that.
What does he not do at least a B- level? I mean, his handle's gotten better. His feel is good. His jump shot's improved. He's got touch from every level. He guards 5 positions. He doesn't have a clear weakness anymore. The question is, does he have that like inner crazy to be that mega star that some people thought he was when he was in the 2021 draft? Is he just a really great number 2, or can he become the second best big in the league behind Victor Wembanyama?
All right, so I'm up now, and I got my boys, the Cleveland Cavaliers. This one's a tough one because if you look at the dynamic of where Cleveland was, I believe they just grabbed Darius Garland year prior, or maybe 2 years prior, whatever it was. They kind of have a funky roster, you know, and Jared Allen is there. And I think Garland, Mobley, and Allen were pretty great. Like when they played that 1 year, obviously they didn't make the playoffs, but they fought. That's because Allen missed some time. Mobley missed some time towards the end of the year. They really had a shot. They were in the play and they fought hard. I think you pair Garland with a wing here. And I think there's 2 guys that come to my mind right now. There's Franz Wagner. There's Jalen Johnson. And with all due respect to Scotty Barnes, I was about to say Scotty Pippins. With all due respect to Scotty Barnes, I'm gonna go with the third pick in the 2021 NBA Redraft. The Cleveland Cavaliers select Jalen Johnson. And I go Jalen Johnson here, not because he's a better player than Franz per se. I think his game fits more with what Garland likes to run, what Jared Allen likes to run. I think Jalen Johnson is a better playmaking wing than Franz Wagner. I think Jalen Johnson is better in transition than Franz Wagner. I think the way him and Garland can run in transition, can get out in space, I think that's really important. I think the way Jalen Johnson can create for others and be a play finisher and a playmaker at the same time is really important. And I get Franz Wagner in the half court. I do think he's better at getting to the rim. I think he's a better scorer. But I look at Jalen Johnson, I think he's kind of that jack of all trades that fits Garland and fits Allen. And I think with Jalen, with Franz, with Scotty, they are 3 all-star potential all-NBA wings. For me, though, I think Cleveland should go Jalen Johnson here. So this is the first crazy pick of the draft. I'm going Jalen Johnson with this one.
John, you want to go first?
That's definitely an underdog pick. I don't think many of us expected the second name there to be Jalen. I expect it to be Scotty Barnes, but James, I don't hate it. Honestly, I think he's the best fit here. A lot of the time when you're taking a guy out to the top 2, you're not looking for the best player available, but rather the one who complements and elevates my existing core the best. Jalen Johnson is someone who this year has been really awesome. A low-end, I wouldn't say a low-end all-star, but at that point where it's a super elite role player who's only 22 years old and is kind of scratching the surface in a breakout season. There's really a lot to like here at Jalen Johnson. He's 23, just turned. Happy belated. And quite frankly, you talked about him versus Scotty Barnes. This year, Jalen's been more productive in multiple facets of the game. And I think a lot of teams would like to have him in his physical tools.
He's what you think Scotty is, honestly.
I am ready to
19, 10,
go
6.
at the freaking wall. I'm going to chew out this like doorknob for Scotty Barnes, man. I am going to fight for the guy, but I wouldn't pick Scotty Barnes here either.
Hyperbole.
I know you wouldn't.
Franz Wagner is the evident pick. Riv, you're the best. You're a smart guy. It's so obviously Franz Wagner. You look at that Cleveland Cavaliers team at the time. They sucked. They were
pretty dog shit.
They were dog shit. Okay? They sucked.
So third pick.
You take the best player here. I'm not doing the okay, let's take James Wiseman because we don't need a point guard.
He was dog shit. It's pretty far, reach.
I mean, you don't do that. You just don't. Franz Wagner, without Paolo Banchero, pushed Orlando up to a number 3 seed at one point in the year, giving you 26, 6, and 6, defending his own creator. I like Darius Garland. He is not a number 1 creator on a high-end team. And Franz Wagner might not be, but I don't think there's anybody better in this draft at that. And I think people underrate Franz Wagner's ability in transition. It's just Orlando doesn't go out enough in transition. And I just think if there's a guy who's going to average 27, 28 in this draft, it's going to be Franz Wagner. So I think Franz Wagner he had a case for 2, but he most certainly should have gone 3. And I just don't think – I think Jalen Johnson's really good. I've been a Jalen Johnson stan, which is why I had Atlanta in the playoffs going into the year. But I still think you have to take Franz Wagner here. So
I'll say this. For starters, the James Wiseman one was crazy because the gap between Wiseman and
I just heard
LaMelo
fit.
and Ant is nuts. I think Jalen Johnson, Franz, and Scotty, I really don't think there's a seismic gap like it is with Wiseman. I don't think the gap is too crazy, honestly. I think even with Cade, I love Cade to death. That's my guy. I don't think he has a seismic gap over those 3 guys either. I think they're all floor 1, floor 2, floor, like it's literally right next to each other. With the situation though, I mean, if we're talking about Jalen Johnson, the player he is now, obviously in this redraft, and you're getting that Garland that's 21 and 8, great efficiency, the do it all point, the transition point guard, the shooting point guard. I think him and Jalen Johnson work. I get it. Franz
I
without
agree.
Banchero has been amazing, but like you see Jalen Johnson next to a high level playmaking point guard. I don't think Darius Garland is Trae Young, but he has that playmaking chops like Trae Young, and you see what him and Jalen Johnson are able to do. That's why I think if you plug in Garland, you plug in Jalen. For me, I went fit here. I didn't go. I said that I didn't go who's best player available because I do think Franz is better than Jalen Johnson. I went fit here, and I think Jalen Johnson can reach similar levels. Also, I think Franz has no argument to go over Evan Mobley. I just want to state that because I heard you say
I
that.
think he has an outside case. I wouldn't take him over Evan Mobley in this context, but I do think he has an outside case. I've watched a lot of Orlando basketball earlier in the year, man, and I was like, he's playing like a top 15 player right now. Doesn't mean he is one,
Yeah, I don't hate
but
that.
he was playing like a top 15 player.
Yeah,
So
when Paulo was in the lineup, he wasn't. If I could add one more thing, Jaren has been, not Jaren, I was thinking of Jaren Jackson because talking about Mobley before. Jalen has been the better shooter this year off the catch, where Franz in the past has been the better shooter, specifically in those catch and shoot situations or playing off of Darius Garland. I mean, that's a big part of how well he connects to a player. And this year, Jaren's showing more development in that area. So
Jalen.
that also leads me to kind of understand Riv's point of view here, where Franz the better player. I agree. Yeah, easily. But that's not to say that Jalen did again is not in that same crop of player. And I really do believe he's a perfect complement and maybe the third starter role in that kind of hybrid forward position.
I don't disagree, and this isn't necessarily a I hate Jalen Johnson sentiment on my end. I think Jalen Johnson is really good. It's just I think Franz is very clearly in the top 3 with the way he played this year. So I was just like, I remember that Cleveland game, and it was nasty to watch. And this was before like Darius really broke out too.
Yeah.
So I just looked at it like this team at the time really needed a number 1 creator, and Franz might be one, he might not be one, but I think at this point of the draft, I think he was pretty astoundingly the guy if you were going for that. And I think Jalen Johnson, he's going to be really good. I think he's going to make all-star teams. I really like Jalen Johnson. If Cleveland had the 4th or 5th pick in this draft class, I would have been like home run. But it's just the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft class, and I really believe in Franz. So,
well, your next pick.
Yeah,
4th overall pick. I was going to take Scotty and make this a Scotty love fest, but I'm taking Franz now. I will. I think Toronto, especially if you look in hindsight next to Siakam, I think even though there's still not great floor spacing between Siakam and Franz, I still think Toronto, that team really needed a guy you could just get your own bucket in the half court.
They maybe need a 5. An offensive engine at the 5. Their defense was pretty nice that year. You plug him next to. That's all I'm saying. I'm just throwing
Şengün's good, but I still think I think there's a mini tier at the top 3 in this draft.
I'd go Franz too.
And then like there's a top tier, and then there's kind of a Scotty is in between that top tier where it's like Cade, Mobley, and Franz, I think, is in that top tier. And then there's like this like I'm having an identity crisis tier with Scotty Barnes, and then there's the next 3 or so guys. And I think Johnson and Şengün and those guys are in that next group. But I think Franz Wagner is the guy, best creator at this point, and I think Toronto today still needs that.
Buying or selling 29% from 3-point land the last 2 years in Franz Wagner.
Who?
29% from 3 the last 2 years. Franz
Okay.
Wagner.
I've been trying to tell you that.
I'm not buying it, but I want to know what you're thinking.
Yeah, I've been trying to tell you that.
That's a wilder question.
What was the question for me?
Buying
That's
or
a statement.
selling 29% from 3 the last 2 years.
I'm willing to let him figure it out.
John, you're a funny guy for asking this fucking question. You are hilarious.
Yeah, you're the guy that really
You're
told me to
buying
do
it.
that.
John's buying it. That's
No,
the funny part.
Just wondering.
He does have that thing with his shot though, where he kind of his legs gets. I don't want to say lazy, but there's
It's not enough dip.
definitely he doesn't have great jump with his base, which is I'm not sure how fixable or unfixable that is. He still has a nasty step back. So
He does have a nice form though. It's really nice.
It is.
when he builds momentum into his shot, it looks pretty good. When he doesn't, it gets flat. And I just want to believe that's fixable.
He plays really low to the floor too.
Mm-hmm.
For a 6'10" guy, he plays really low.
Yeah, he's got. I'm done with the Franz Wagner praise section. Let's move topics. Okay,
Let's move on to the 5th overall pick in the original draft.
This is a tough one.
The Orlando Magic took Jalen Suggs with this selection. Now, I am going to be changing things, and this pick will be Scotty Barnes. Keep in mind, this was before the Magic took Paolo Banchero, and at times, Scotty Barnes has kind of showed us the potential, and there's also been some down seasons, maybe from three-point land this year. It hasn't quite been what you'd hope, but at the end of the day, this is one of the best playmaking wins in the game, one of the best defenders at his position, and someone who still has a good amount of potential at his age, 22-year-old. And I think if you put him in a situation where he's not the main lead creator, but he's rather the second option, maybe similar to what Pascal Siakam was for multiple years in Toronto, you can see Scotty Barnes be more efficient. Again, as you kind of look at his 27% three-point land, and I do somewhat buy it. I don't really look at him as a high 30% three-point shooter. I look at him somewhere in the low 30s. So that's something that I really want to see develop. But until then, you're seeing jack of all trades wing. And when you compare him to, say, Ben Simmons, someone who has a consistent 16, 8, and 8 with 2.5 stocks a game in Philadelphia, it's really easy to look at Scotty's production and say he's a more productive player and he can fulfill a similar role. So Scotty Barnes at number 5 for the Magic.
All right, that's a damn. My Warriors up next. I hope Wilder. I really hope you make
Thunder.
No, I'm saying
But-
after me, Warriors.
Oh.
I hope you make the right pick. I'm trying to look at 2021, and I want to look at OKC's roster real quick.
Can I chime in on Scotty real quick?
Yeah, you do that while I look at their roster.
Awesome. I just want to make the point. We were all so defensive about Cade Cunningham not producing efficiently because he was hurt. We were doing that for a while. But Scotty Barnes been hurt all year. All of a sudden, the efficiency is a fully indictment on who he is. I'm not saying he's a good shooter, but he's never shot this bad before. And he's been jumping in and out of the floor with injuries. Career 31% from 3, shot 29 his rookie year, and he's shooting 27 right now. I mean, I'm not saying he's a good shooter, but to say he's a 27 guy, I think he's a little better than that. And I think the career low in efficiency is probably a product of figuring out on a bad team navigating injuries. So
I will say his sophomore year production and his efficiency was nearly identical. And his three-throw line shooting around 70%, maybe this year
sophomore
it's been a little
slump
bit lower there. I look at his touch and really style play, and I don't think it's really too far off from where he's going to truly be.
Last year, age 22 season, shot 34.5% from 3, and he shot 48% from the field. I think he's closer to that than what he is right now. It's just I think the Raptors situation, it's a difficult circumstance. It's not a good basketball team with no creators, not any great spacing. Your best spacer maybe is Grady Dick, and what is he shooting? 35% from 3, and he's doing that while coming in and out of the rotation with injuries. I mean, I think this is as bad as it gets for him going forward, and I think he's going to jump up a gear soon.
Fair enough. Don't sleep on Ochai Agbaji, 43% from downtown.
Oh, he's their only shooter. Okay.
OJ's been pretty solid this year.
Yeah,
okay.
Quickly's been hurt, so that hurts.
Yeah.
So I got my OKC. This OKC is tough because they went back-to-back years of not being good. This is even before Dennis and Chris Paul, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it was after.
No, after. Yeah, I'm tweaking. Yeah, I'm years off. So SGA's here. He's averaging 23, 24 points per game, but there's no real motion. In the next draft class, they get Chet and J-Dub, if I'm not mistaken. So this one, they grab up Josh Giddey. I think at this point, you got to go best player available. And I think for the best player available, it's Alperen Sengun. I think you got to go him here. I think bring him in, somebody who, is a really good playmaker at the 5 spot, solid post player, can get a lot of rebounds, kind of has a weird fit with SGA. So I don't know how that's going to work. But at this point, I trust OKC's position to either trade these guys, get another player, or just make the proper moves in the development process. So I'll go Sengun. I just think best player available. He drops all the way to, he climbs up all the way to number 6.
Good
That's
pick.
near your eyes.
So 7th pick now?
Yes.
With the 7th pick, I'm not sure if this is Rib's guy. It might be, might not be. I'm going to go with...
It's only one guy.
I'm
John,
just raising the suspense right now.
John, shut up. Shut up.
So the Warriors, I still believe, you look today and you look a couple years ago, they need more shot making. I'm going Cam Thomas, Golden State Warriors. I just did it. I get it. Jordan Poole's on that team. Cam Thomas is a better talent than Jordan Poole. And
who's a better talent?
Cam Thomas is a better talent than Jordan Poole. He is.
No, he's not.
When he gets opportunity, he's a ridiculous shot maker. Going back to his second season, he gets starting minutes, gets 3 straight 40-point games. This year, averaging 25 points per game on 46%, solid efficiency. He's the best scorer at this point of the draft. And seeing a guy like that who is a pretty good off-ball scorer when he's moving in motion, I want to see that with the Warriors. And Cam Thomas is also just and from my perspective, I don't watch the Nets as much as I watch a team like the Warriors. He comes off as a grounded personality, which Jordan Poole never did. So I'm going Cam Thomas here.
Wow.
A couple things. I don't know if Steve Kerr is going to play Cam Thomas. He's one of those guys, same way how Chris Finch is. And you know how these stubborn coaches is. They value guys who understand the system. I don't think Cam Thomas would understand the system. This is fresh off Steph's 35-point per game season. They got all these veterans. I would have went here Herb Jones. I would have went somebody who can come in, immediately play defense, a 4-year veteran, or I would have went Trey Murphy here. Just guys.
I would have went Trey Murphy or Jalen Suggs.
I thought about those two.
Suggs would have been cool too, but when you look at who he had already in the guard spot, Steph, Clay, he's going to play GP 30 minutes or whatever. You already have Jordan Poole. I would have went somebody who's a much bigger wing. You compare him next to Wiggins. You have yourself a bit of a dynamic defensive duo. And even if you lose, we watch Golden State lose these guys and rely on the young players. If you lose these guys and you have Herb Jones, you still have a defensive player of the year candidate, like somebody who can still give you lockdown defense play next to Andrew Wiggins. Even when Andrew Wiggins is out, he can play better defense. So I would have went there. I get the Cam Thomas love. I don't agree with the Jordan Poole. I think Jordan Poole is clearly better than Cam Thomas.
No.
But
clearly that's not true.
No, I'm taking Cam Thomas.
The better scorer.
Better score than who?
He's a better scorer than Jordan Poole.
He's a wasted
he gets
scorer.
The foul line. He gets the
He's
foul line
not.
a lot more. The
He's
3-point shooting. 3-point shooting.
The Nets when he's playing haven't sucked. They haven't sucked, and he's doing that average 25 a game.
14th seed.
I would lean Poole as the 3-point shooter.
But they started the year before he was battling injuries, like around 520 games in. They didn't suck. And
you guys are telling me stuff about what he did in the Nets, and it's not his fault, but it's useless to me. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that information. I watched Jordan Poole be a high contributor for a playoff team.
That's in Washington.
Team.
What's the difference between Washington and
Jordan Poole? Thank you, John.
Jordan Poole and Golden State had series. He had moments, but it was never consistent.
You're a liar.
The finals. It was never consistent in the finals. He struggled in the finals.
He had a legit.
He had shot in the finals, but it was not consistent.
Wait. First of all, this year, this is the fresh out to 2020. He averaged 15 points a game. He was consistent all year off the bench.
2022 or 2020? 2021.
The year we won the chip.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the playoffs.
The playoffs, he was solid. He was solid.
Yeah, there's moments.
He's
There's
a
highs and there's lows.
him
Like
and
any
Cam
sport,
Thomas.
like off the bench.
Cam Thomas are the same type of player. They're streaky players.
Agreed.
They're either going to be hot or they're cold. The difference between him and Cam Thomas is we've seen Jordan Poole play within a system. We've seen Jordan Poole.
Is that Cam Thomas's fault, or did Jordan Poole just get drafted by the Warriors?
And that's why I just said I don't know what Cam Thomas is Brooklyn. You're guessing of what he's shown us in Brooklyn. I don't know what he can do in a positive situation. You're telling me they've been competitive. What are they, the 13th seed in the East? What?
Well,
I don't
he was
know
battling they've been hurt lately. I mean, when they started the year, they weren't awful, and I don't think they would have maintained that level of play. But he wasn't playing this clear-cut losing basketball, unlike Mr. Jordan Poole, who how many games did they lose in a row this year?
When Cam Thomas was scoring 40 last year, they were losing.
Stacking L's.
When Cam's wait, hold on. First of all, I bet you. Wait, time out.
And the Nets have a better record than the Wizards still.
Hold on, because I saw this stat, and this is gonna shock the world. Basically, you guys, you know they're a better team when Cam Thomas is off the floor, right?
Give me the stat.
Oh, let's pull it up. Oh, I hope I find it fast. No, you might find it faster than me. Yeah, John, you might. I hope you find it faster than me.
Because you ain't gonna find it. I know that.
No, because I remember we were talking about it on the podcast.
They're neutral. It's pretty neutral when he's on and off the court.
Yeah, they're actually 1 point better. Point differential.
0.6.
Yeah, Thomas is on the floor. I'm using Clean the Glass. I'm not sure. Maybe you're using different site.
I'm on
Basketball
PBP
Reference.
Stats.
Okay. Well, when Thomas was off the floor, they had Dennis Schroeder, who was having a career year, and Ben Simmons having a resurgence in some ways. So they did have a handful of guards who kind of in that, those second units really did step up.
I wish I had it well.
But they were still better with Thomas on the floor, at least at this point in the season.
I think if Cam Thomas puts it all together, I think like his feeling, like the type of player, I think he has a chance to be like a Michael Redd type player. And I think that's a really good player.
I like that. Smaller Michael Redd.
Michael Redd was tough.
Yeah. He was. I mean, but he averaged 26 on a not great Bucks team.
Cam Thomas is one of the best tough shot makers in the game, too. I think you're dismissing how good he's been, how productive he's been this year. I mean, we're talking about a guy making 38% of his threes, getting the foul line, 6.5 attempts. He makes his 3 throws. He's an efficient inside the arc scorer and someone who, has some maybe faults on the defensive end and some tough shot selection here and there. But a lot of the shots go in that are tough.
Okay, this isn't working, so I can't even show you guys. I think you guys
He's shooting 46, 39, 87 splits this year.
It's pretty damn good.
It's not
that sounds really good. I'm not moved.
Can he do that maybe in a contending situation? We saw that a bit last year, 2 years ago, before they traded Kevin Durant for a small portion of games that Kyrie was out, but they ultimately blew it up before Cam Thomas had a large sample size to prove.
Wasn't he in the doghouse and Jack Vaughn was not playing him at one point?
That was last year, but the year before, he was in the doghouse, but prior to getting put in there, prior to getting placed in there, probably because the Nets want to tank, that might be part of the reason why, he was playing very well in that January, December to February stretch of 2022 to 2023. Not 23, 24.
2022, 2023.
Yep, 2 years ago, and they traded Kevin Durant at the deadline. Right before then, he was playing quite well for like a small 10 to 20 game sample size, and that's all I really got. And they're winning a lot of games without Kyrie.
2022, 2023, boom, found it.
Correct.
Here we go. So you said January to February.
Yeah, maybe late December, like around Christmas time.
I'll give you the Christmas. So we'll go Christmas. He wasn't really playing much, so I can't even give you Christmas. So we'll start January because that's when he started playing a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was late January. It's January 30th.
They're losing a lot of games, brother. I don't know what you're talking about. They're losing a lot.
Well, he was averaging 25 on 48, 46, 90 splits.
Let's see.
For an 11-game sample size.
Oh, this is when he was dropping the 40 balls.
Correct.
Yeah.
They were losing.
Who cares? His second year.
They nearly beat the Suns playoff team. They nearly beat the Clippers playoff team.
You talking about nearly winning, bro.
They did kind of lose Kyrie Irving at that point, and then KD was about to get moved.
I
don't know. If Cam Thomas was doing these numbers and he was also like winning without Kyrie and KD, he probably goes number 1. So,
KD didn't play in those games. Riv, it was Cam Thomas, Claxton, and Royce O'Neal.
You didn't say that. You said KD played.
I wasn't entirely sure what they got traded.
Listen, KD didn't play. You got me. That's a record in itself.
Yep.
Listen, I get it. The numbers are cute. You know, the tough shot making is adorable.
I love watching him. I
Yeah,
love
we
watching
love
him.
we love tough shot makers that refuse to pass the ball and shoot up
You
against
don't
other teams
apparently.
and triple
You love Jordan
team.
Poole.
I adore him because I watched him for a finals team be really good. You know, we love these type of guys that just throw up these numbers on teams that don't mean shit, and then until all I'm saying, this is all I'll say about Cam Thomas. His basic numbers are attractive. They give you something to latch on to. Until we see him in a valuable position or a team that's actually competing and he's in an actual role, we'll never know what he truly is. And that's a fact.
But Jordan Poole taught me a lesson in life because I think a player of that archetype can win.
That's literally Rob
glorious
Dillingham's
style.
archetype.
And I'm not paying Jordan Poole $30 million with Cam Thomas on the roster. It just, sure, it could be theories, blah, blah, blah. Cade Cunningham was a giant theory until this year. So don't say it's impossible to have a theory and be right or wrong about it. Cam Thomas in that situation, I believe, would be very productive.
And the one Jordan Poole's in?
I mean, has he lost 14 in a row, Cam Thomas?
That was
And the
16.
Wizards?
Hmm?
Are you talking about in the Wizards situation?
No, what I'm saying is Cam Thomas in that Warrior situation, I believe would do something similar as Jordan Poole would, but better. And you're not paying him $30 million right now to do it.
I mean, maybe. You're basically saying
That's my
a player.
theory. It's my pick. It's my pick.
But what are you basing it off? You've never seen Cam Thomas associate himself to a system.
I'm basing it on my belief in the player. That's what this is.
I get it. Listen. I don't. Maybe yes or no. We can only go off what we've seen. We've seen Poole do it. We have Cam Thomas has yet to get the chance to do it. Let me say that. Let me be fair to Cam. He's yet to get the chance to do it. Will he be able to do it, replicate it? I don't know. Hopefully Brooklyn gives them the foundation to do it. I would have never paid Jordan Poole $30 million though. Like I don't think he was ever $30 million.
That's why you reset the contract here.
Yeah, he's more like a 2022 type of guy. But shit, based off Cam Thomas numbers, they might give him $30 million. So
we'll see. We'll see.
I mean,
and they're the same. They're the same archetype.
Yeah.
So if you're telling me you wouldn't give Jordan Poole 30, I wouldn't give Cam 30 either.
I don't think that's.
They give.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that.
These archetypes.
How many guys
Tyler Hero
at 7th overall are you giving $30 million? By the way, not many.
They gave Malik Monk $18 million. He's probably more valuable than both of them.
Oof.
It's the 7th pick. It's not
Malik
the
Monk's
second.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So I don't. But what I know is Cam Thomas is not a good passer, not even remotely okay passer. He does not play defense. He's a tunnel vision scorer. The scoring is pretty. The shot making is tough. But Jordan Poole was giving you tough shot making. I mean, we forget the stint where Steph Curry went out and Jordan Poole had to step in, and he was amazing for them. Do we forget that part? That's important.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important. Like, we love to talk about Cam Thomas without Kevin Durant and Kyrie. Jordan Poole had to literally walk into Steph Curry's spot and make sure they stay relevant in the playoff hunt, and he did that. Now,
I think Cam Thomas could do something similar. That's just my theory.
Washington got me. Last year, Jordan Poole was terrible. This year, he's been pretty solid. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how this looks if Cam Thomas ever gets a situation. I don't know, though, because Brooklyn is funny. So hopefully he gets out of Brooklyn, honestly.
He's missed the last 10 games, but when he played, they were pretty solid. They were like 11-11 to start the year, I believe, and they've lost seven in a row. How many?
He has played in a system with Jordy Fernandez. Now we're moving forward to the 8th overall pick, which is me. The Orlando Magic with the selection used it on, here we go, John, Franz Wagner. And unfortunately, Franz is taken at the 4th overall slot, so that won't be the option we'll take here. Instead, with this pick, we're going to go with Jalen Suggs, keeping him in Orlando. This is an all-defensive guard who has spearheaded some of the best units in the NBA on that end of the floor. And this year, he has seen a pretty noticeable dip from 39.7 to 30% from three-point land. But one, I think it's a testament to the shot selection and how many off-the-dribble shots he's had to take in the absence of Paolo and Franz, who both tore their obliques. Very unlucky, very bizarre, and that's really forced and propelled Jalen Suggs into a role that he's just not adept to be in. But as a 3rd to 4th option, someone who kind of fills in the role of a Marcus Smart in Boston, he is essential to this team and their culture. I think I overthought this one quite a bit. It should easily be Jalen Suggs. I think what he brings culturally goes beyond what he can bring on the floor.
Okay, so Orlando still gets Scotty and Suggs. I don't hate it. That's actually, you still get, a wing and a guard. So for me, I have the 9th pick, which is the Sacramento Kings. I think this is pretty easy for me. With the 9th pick in the 2021 NBA redraft, the Kings take Herbert Jones.
Mitchell.
They take Herbert Jones. I'm going Herb Jones here. Listen, you wanted defense, you get an upgrade at that in Herb Jones. You wanted a 6'10" wing next to Fox, you get that in Herb Jones. You wanted somebody who has constantly, been able to develop his 3-point shot when his teammates are there. Because given in New Orleans, nobody plays. But when they are playing, Herb Jones is a solid corner 3-point shooter. He can give you that. I think he can provide that defensive wing that you've been yearning for in Sacramento. You've tried it with Keon Ellis. You tried it with Keegan Murray. Herb Jones is that. He is that guy that can relieve that pressure. You have Herb Jones against the Golden State Warriors. That series may look a little different because Steph absolutely destroyed them. So I'm looking at that, and I think Herb Jones is the easy pick for the Kings at 9.
I like it. Because I want to add something to that. They're going to take either Franz Wagner or Jalen Johnson with that selection. But when Franz was taking the selection before, they immediately panicked and said, let's get a 3rd, 4th point guard here. Why not? And that really backfired on them. If they took Jalen Johnson with that pick, we look at the Kings completely differently. Because Johnson fit in so well into that 2023 team. And now you look at a core of De'Aaron Fox, Jalen Johnson, Domantas Sabonis, maybe Keegan Murray. Maybe they go a different path with that selection. And then, of course, Tyrese Halliburton for that 1 year. So I think the Kings did miss the ball on that one.
Yeah, drafting a 23-year-old point guard is nuts. When you already have
and they wanted that Herb Jones type impact from Davion Mitchell. But you're just actually getting it from somebody who complements a De'Aaron Fox much better at the wing with that superior size. And also Tyrese Halliburton was on the roster at this time too, which just adds the weird to the pick. So number 10, this one's quite easy. And a part of me just had a big debate over Cam Thomas. Part of me kind of wishes we took him 7 here, but I also like the Cam Thomas pick. Trey Murphy, I'm taking him number 10. And let's just say it's Memphis, right? Because they made that trade before the draft. So Memphis at number 10.
Oh, they keep him.
Yep. Ironically, that was the pick that they traded, the 17th overall pick for the 10th. And that 17th pick was Trey Murphy to the Pelicans.
Oh, Trey Murphy to Memphis is a movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they took Zaire Williams, so you kind of actually get what you want from Zaire Williams in Trey Murphy. Just an insane floor spacer for Jaren Jackson. And this team struggled with floor spacing a little bit at this time, but now you have Desmond Bane and Trey Murphy at the 2 and 3. Makes a massive difference. So
I love this selection. One of the more underrated players this year, averaging 19 a game, elite shooter, solid defensive player. I'd say a plus defender, and even gives you a little bit off the dribble as well. So that's a pretty damn good pick. Number 10, number 11, Riv. That's me, right?
That's 100%. You remember you cut me off to go ahead of me.
Yep. 2, 5, 8, 11. So
there we go. Pay attention.
+3 for each one.
Locking.
All right, 11th overall pick. The Charlotte Hornets use this in a player who I was high on. Riv was high on. That's James Bouknight.
That hurts my heart. That does.
None of us are perfect. Now, I'm going one of two ways here. I'm either going Jonathan Kuminga or I'm going Santi Aldama. Santi Aldama this year has been awesome in his kind of secondary role, 13 a game, super efficient, continuing to get better, and really an unheralded prospect where Kuminga has all the physical tools, all the traits, but maybe isn't the perfect fit for a team that has a ton of talent, but not a whole lot of those complementary players that can kind of reserve a second role to LaMelo Ball. Am I crazy for going Santi Aldama here?
Do you think about Trey Mann?
I do think about it. He's on my board. Unfortunately, I do look at guys like Miles McBride in that same exact spot too. I'm looking for guys who can help me win games. That's what I'm in the business for here if I'm Charlotte, because they haven't done a whole lot of that last
ever
the franchise. The pick is Santi Aldama. This is one of the more underrated players in basketball, 6th man of the year. I think he's going to win the award between him, Trey Mann, and he has just been an absolute game changer this year for Memphis. High-level three-point shooter at 38%, continuing to get better on that end of the floor, but this is a jack of all trades, Wayne. Defensively, he's active. He holds his own. He can protect the rim. He's a good athlete who can play above the rim. He can handle just a little bit. He's a good passer. I think 13, 7, and 3 assists a game is not a ceiling. He's 23 years old, and quite frankly, you can make a case right now Santi Aldama is the most underrated player in basketball. How impactful he's been, nearly 60% effective field goal percentage. I mean, this is just one of the most efficient and well-rounded forwards in this draft class, and someone who I expect to continue to get better to the point where Memphis has to start him. Because defensively, I've been very impressed with what he's been able to do at times, and I think at his age, he might just be scratching the surface of his true potential.
Yeah, Adama's been great, and it's going to be interesting to see how Memphis figures out their log jam
Yep.
because they have so many players hurt right now that it's watching these guys like Jay Huff, Jake Latvia, Santi Aldama like
There
play
you
so well. They've been playing really high
go.
level. Yeah, I don't know how to say his name.
That's amazing. I love
Yeah,
that.
they've been playing such high level basketball that when Vince Williams comes back and Gigi Jackson comes back, where do you fill all these guys in? Do you make a trade to get a better player? I think that smart contract is probably the one they're dangling around to try to get a Cam Johnson because I think Cam Johnson would be dope for this team. But I'm up next. I have the San Antonio Spurs, and I think this easily is the pick for Jonathan Kuminga. I think he slots right in here for San Antonio. I want to keep the same energy for them. They went swing pick at Joshua Primo. Don't know where he is. This is the perfect guy to come in and you develop him really right. I think we, as a fan base or as a basketball community, we kind of just blindly trust San Antonio's player development. And who better to help than Jonathan Kuminga, somebody with superhuman athleticism, 6'8", 6'9", wing size. So for me, Jonathan Kuminga is the easy pick at number 12.
When John was talking about Jonathan Kuminga at 11 to Charlotte, I was like, no.
Yeah, no.
With San Antonio at 12 and just watching how Charlotte has developed incredibly raw talent, I was like, no. Next pick. There you go.
I didn't see them. I had tunnel vision in my selection.
So I love the pick, and I think it's great. I have nothing else to say. So
what a landing spot. I mean, I'm sorry to cut you off. There may not be a better place for a player like Kuminga to go.
Yeah, no, that would have been perfect.
And now pick 13, I believe Indiana is making this pick. And this is a weird spot for them, especially with the state they were as a team at the time. And obviously their overemphasis on getting polished players, which is why they bring in a Chris Duarte. And there's a few players who I think about at this spot, and I'm struggling with the decision unless I am missing somebody so obvious that you guys are pounding the table and I'm just missing them.
If you name names, I could tell you if you're missing somebody.
But, I think the name I'm going to roll with here, I'm going to roll with Aaron Wiggins, Indiana.
I don't hate it.
Am I missing somebody?
Corey Kispert, I would have went with.
I would have went with.
I'm going to go Aaron Wiggins.
Okay.
I don't hate it.
There's McBride, there's Quinn Grimes, and there's Trey Mann.
The reason why I go with Aaron Wiggins is I think Aaron Wiggins would thrive under that type of offense in which they play, the pace, the aggression they play with. His game is very simple, very energy-based, athletic, can hit an open shot, can go in transition, and Indiana needs more point-of-attack defenders, more physically aggressive guys. Kind of the best they have is Aaron Nesmith, and the IQ is missing there on defense. But you get a guy like Aaron Wiggins there, and I think he's day one their best perimeter defender, and they just need those, period.
You know what? I like it because there's a lot of teams, a handful of teams where Aaron Wiggins would start and be a lot more productive than what he's giving Oklahoma City. This is one of those teams. So
it's a fit. This is a fit.
Very good selection.
I don't hate it. This is a fit pick for sure. If I would have kept the same energy like with Duarte, I would have went Corey Kispert because I feel like he also fits Indiana's pace and space. Floor spacing, great shooter. So I don't hate it though. I think Aaron Wiggins is the perfect fit. Like this is a guy I just need in. We have kind of our guys that's bringing another guy that kind of fits what we want to do.
Absolutely. Now, Riv, talk to me here because before we took Cam Thomas for the Warriors, and everyone left from the board is basically a guard, with exception to Moses Moody. I need help. Who do I go?
Who we have? We have 15 is Washington.
No, we're at 14 for the Warriors.
We're damn. Why did I a whole number?
Miles McBride, Ayo Dosunmu, Moses Moody, Corey Kispert.
I think the easy answer is Deuce McBride.
I like the pick a lot. I like the idea a lot, but the only reason why I have hesitance is because of how deep their backcourt is going to be with Cam Thomas.
And listen, this brother went. Listen, I get it. Deuce McBride can play the three. He's 6'4". Gary Payton plays the 5 for us sometimes.
Sure.
So Steve Kerr is very, very peculiar. He's very bland, like very not bland. I want to say he's very imaginary with his lineups. He will run 4 guards and 1 big if necessary. I think Deuce, just watching him at West Virginia, I mean, this guy's a dog defensively. Watching him play up against Cade and watching him be able to be just a stout defender, he gives you what Gary Payton gives you on defense while being a better offensive player. If you can grab that, it gives you more varieties in your lineups. It gives you another guard you can play next to Steph that can actually defend. And I think he's very, very mature in his ways. So I think Trey Mann would fumble and go in the state, not because of his ability, just because his play style. I think you already have that in Jordan Poole. You know, I think you have to get guys who fit more of what Golden State's culture is and who is going to be under, like, who's going to be able to get off the leash of Steve Kerr. You know, that's why Pods is off the leash and stuff like that. So that's who I'd go with personally.
I agree with the 14th pick. We're going to go with Deuce. He is the best player on the board to me. I like Trey Mann a lot, but I believe that what Deuce brings in the defensive end as a point of attack defender and a very good 3-point shooter at 40% for a second year in a row makes him more valuable to a playoff team.
And I am of the last pick. Oh, Isaiah Jackson's still on the board. That would have been a cool pick too, but nah. Ayo Dosunmu's still on the board. Washington is in it. They're just like, what am I supposed to do here?
They
Corey Kispert still there?
for so many years in a row.
Corey Kisper's still here. With the 15th pick, we are going back to Corey Kispert. I don't think I don't. No, I lied. We're running back. We're going Trey Mann. We're going best player available on the board. Listen, Trey Mann, I always loved him coming out of Florida, and I felt like going to OKC, he was kind of, banished to the dungeon just because they had so much talent. They had so many guards. And Washington, I think he'll be able to show his true grit. I think he is of the Jordan Poole, Cam Thomas archetype, and where he's that, you can add Lou Will into this too, that spark plug, high energy offensive player off the bench. Malik Monk is also another guy, but Trey Mann is more swaggy. He's more flair. He's more throwback, big shorts, braids. You got the headband. You got to get to the rim at a slow pace. You got to speed up, slow down, the jumper. Like, he's real old school with his game. And I think Washington, they're a shit show just like Charlotte, but you just need talent, and I think Trey Mann can give you that.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna have Trey Mann fall to 16. And I was like, damn, I don't know about that, man.
Yeah, he'd have went back to OKC. I'd have hated that for him. I'd have hated that for him.
Wow, so that was the final pick in this 2021 NBA Redraft. Quite a deep draft, and I was hoping he was taking Corey Kispert just because it's so weird to have like a player in the middle of the draft go with the exact same pick. So
very true.
Pretty good. I made my confession about being wrong about Cade Cunningham. We moved on. I thought Cade was going to be really good. I was always like, can he be great? And
you didn't think he'd be like more all-star.
There's still that, sure, but I mean, he's going to be a perennial all-star, and I mean, there's no clear Steph Curry in this draft yet, so there's really nobody else you would roll with. So Cade Cunningham, and then 1 through 15, a guy like Trey Mann in Washington, I think could give like 18 a game. All right, so second part of the show. You guys want to talk about the Luka Doncic situation?
Let's talk about it.
And then we'll finish it. So Luka Doncic, Christmas game, I believe second quarter, left the game with a calf strain, and now he's expected to be out an extended period of time. So, John, just talk about what are your thoughts regarding that late trend?
This is a brutal loss. I'm not entirely sure if this is the same left cat, if it was left to the right one, which sidelined him for the start of the 2022-23 playoffs. But I will say for Dallas, I do believe that they can overcome this injury in many different ways. For one, this team this year is 6-2 without Luka in the lineup. You've got Kyrie Irving having one of his most efficient seasons. And to go along with that, this is a team that's 10 to 11 guys deep, right? They have one of the more well-rounded groups of wings. Najee Marshall even has been one of the best free agent signings. That's a guy who, without Luka in those games, is shooting 50% from three, almost 60% on twos, and averaging 16 points a game. So I do believe for Dallas that Jason Kidd can get their defense to be better than it was in those 8 games that Luka did miss. And to go along with that, I do believe that this team has enough three-point shooting and shot creation with Kyrie to kind of stay afloat. In the meantime, one thing I'm looking for is for Spencer Dinwiddie to give him more meaningful minutes, because that's a guy along with Jaden Hardy, who you'll expect to give you some good run in that second unit. Now that Kyrie won't be there as much, and he'll have to take that load in that Luka role per se. But I'm not too worried for Dallas here, especially with the team being the 4th seed right now. They've got 2-game cushion above the 5th seed Nuggets. I think they'll be fine for when Luka does come back.
I disagree. I'm super worried. I'm super worried about Dallas, and it's not necessarily because whether they can stay afloat in the short term without Luka. I agree. I think the guard plays solid. I think they're a deep enough roster where I think they're 6-2 without him this year, if I'm not mistaken. And they almost came back against Minnesota, which was brutal on my end, but they almost came back that game. But I think the bigger concern is about Luka Doncic because we know Dallas can't get the job done without Luka. He's one of the 5 best in the world. And now I think it's the same calf. I might be wrong, but I believe it is. He's starting to have a history with that calf. And we've seen how other stars, notably Jamal Murray recently, how much a calf strain can really affect your game if you come back too early. So the thing with Luka, the question is going to be, how long will it be for him to be out to be fully healthy? Because I believe with this type of injury, especially when I just lost the train of thought. I believe with this type of injury, especially when there's history of stars, if they come back too early, they're the same. In addition, Luka Doncic, with the questions about how well he takes care of his body, if he comes back too early, he's going to have a major regression on the floor. And if you're Dallas, you certainly want to make sure that doesn't happen. And for that to happen, that's the most important thing long term. But in the short term, you also want to stay afloat long enough. And if Luka Doncic is out a long period of time for that to be the case, then that's where the problems arise.
I think in the short term, I think they'll be fine. I think defensively, this team is really locked in. I think you've seen when PJ Washington plays, he brings a different dynamic to this team. You know, he's a guy who can guard multiple positions, can be that play finisher, a guy who can handle the ball, get into transition, hit the 3 ball. And then you have guys like Najee Marshall who's able to run the offense. You have guys like Kyrie Irving, who's still one of those guys in this league. He's been at an efficient, insane clip this year. You have guys like Quentin Grimes, who's waking up. Klay Thompson still provides that attention on defense that can open up other guys. And then you have your 2 big man tandem that's been really good this year. I think in the short term, this team would be fine. I'm more on the strength of how does this affect Luka long term. You know, calf injuries are no joke. And we've seen last year in the playoffs him dealing with injuries. You know, he still played well in the grand scheme of things, but there were some series where he looked a little bit out of it. And then we saw the Minnesota series, he woke back up. Then in the Celtics series, he was banged up again, you know. So in the long term, calf injuries are really hard to manage because they're really something you just can't wish it that a recover. You know, they take time. It could be longer, it could be shorter. It's really dependent on how your body is. So I think for Luka, the fact that he's able to have this team, they'll be able to stay afloat in a Western Conference that's pretty dangerous. I mean, I think the 12th seed or the 11th seed right now is over 500. You know, I think the Warriors and the Timberwolves are like 10-9 and they're 15-13 or 15-14, something like that. So the West is really a league and where all the teams are above 500. Even the Sacramento Kings, they're not good, but they're sitting at 13-17. You know, Dallas is sitting at the 4th seed. So, you know, I think this team is good enough. They kind of prepared this team very well to where if they do miss Luka for some time in the regular season, I think they'll be okay. You know, I think as long as Kyrie continues to play. I mean, a game or two ago, they pretty much shut Miami down in the 4th quarter, and that was with no Luka, if I'm not mistaken. Like, so they shut Miami down in the 4th quarter. This team is defensively balled in. Offensively, they give you some good stuff in their sets and running their shooters out there. So I think in the short term, they'll be fine. Just long term, it's going to be tricky.
Right. The first time that was 2021-22, Luka had this injury, he would only miss 13 days, in the first few games of that round 1 series versus the Jazz. I expect this to be a lot longer, maybe somewhere in the ballpark, like 1 to 2 months, based off of what some like Google searches have said on the injury severity. But I do think for Dallas, we tend to underestimate just how deep this team is and how resilient they've become without Luka in the lineup, because 6-2 without your best player is pretty damn impressive. And you look at this Dallas roster, a lot of these players like PJ, Najee, and Kyrie, they undoubtedly benefit from playing off of Luka. But when you run an offense through a star with the usage of Luka, 33% usage this year, it's harder for those guys to get into a rhythm on the ball when the possession starts and often ends with Luka. So when you give these guys more opportunity to get more in rhythm, they all tend to perform better. And they have had some unsustainable shooting. I mean, PJ Washington was 52% from three in those games. I don't expect that to stay. But I do believe a lot of these players are credible enough on the ball to support Kyrie. And above 8 games above 500, I don't think they're going to sink without Luka being out. And I do agree with that point you both made. Short term, I don't think it's much of an issue. Long term, you should not rush Luka back unless this team's season's going to, even if it's going to sink, even if you're going to find yourself deep into the hole of the play-in realm. I still believe you prioritize Luka's long-term health over this individual season because Dallas is a resilient team. I think they could be a 6 or 7 seed and still give a team run for their money in the first round. Like the Rockets are currently the 2 seed in the Western Conference, so they should not rush Luka back whatsoever. Make sure that calf is fully healed because we've seen calf injuries in the past, like KD, where he does come back and his body's kind of, or his lower body specifically, is really favoring that muscle group, and then it leads to a torn Achilles. So it is really something you have to take seriously and have the preventive measures in place to ensure Luka is not going to miss more time than necessary.
I think you made all the right points, and that's exactly how I would state it. It isn't about whether I believe in this team to hold afloat without Luka Doncic. The question is how short term is short term. That's the question. Luka Doncic, the last thing you want to do, top priority is you don't want to rush the guy. A dude who consistently has had calf strains. We've seen what it did to a Kevin Durant. We've seen what it's done to a Jamal Murray. If you rush a guy like Luka Doncic, who I reemphasize isn't known for taking great care of his body, playing his way into shape, that could have a very destructive effect. So I'm worried about Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks without him. It's just because there's so many unknowns. And we have to see how long it'll take for him to be back. And when he's back, let's hope it's not because he rushed back, because that could be the worst thing imaginable.
Absolutely.
And now this is going to be the last part of this show. We're going to go through some key names that might be traded at the deadline and talk about maybe a good fit or two, maybe a handful, who knows, good fit for potential stars who could be on the move soon. And the first name I want to mention is the most controversial one so far, Jimmy Butler. Riv, you want to give a good fit?
I think a good fit for him, like good fit for him in which he wants to win a championship, I think is Phoenix. I think that's a good fit. I think somewhere where you already have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, you already kind of have the pecking order. I think Jimmy Butler's game, his play style, he isn't somebody who demands the ball all the time. He isn't somebody who's very garnered on getting the ball. He's played with other stars before. He's been very comfortable in that. And I think he will respect the games of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, kind of can go there and be more on the defensive side of the ball and then, be on offense when needs to be, can kind of be their playmaker too, because Jimmy Butler is a underrated playmaker in his game. Where I would like for him to go, of course, is Golden State, but I think when you look at Golden State, I think for Steph and Jimmy, guys who are just older, they're dealing with injuries. You kind of need somebody who can carry for Golden State. You need somebody who can carry the regular season and then have Steph fresh for the playoffs. I don't think Jimmy's at that stage where he can carry in the regular season. You need him fresh for the playoffs, and that's why I think Phoenix is the spot because you have Kevin Durant and or Devin Booker who have shown in the regular season they can be those guys, and then in the playoffs you have a fresh Jimmy. That'll be a team that's really scary come playoff time.
Man, in a perfect world, the Suns could trade Bradley Beal's $50 million for Jimmy Butler's 48, and you don't have many draft assets for the Suns, but Jimmy Butler's an expiring contract, and the Heat don't really have a whole lot of flexibility if they're not willing to give him a long-term extension, which is what led to Jimmy saying, I'd rather leave and be traded to a team that would extend me, opposed to sticking out the rest of this year with the Heat and then not getting the extension I want anyways. Unfortunately, Tommy Shepard and the Wizards gave Bradley Beal a no-trade clause with his $200 million contract 2 years ago, so it makes that possibility very unlikely that Beal will say, yeah, sure, you can just trade me to the Miami Heat. But I do believe that is, I agree with you, Riv, the perfect situation because Devin Booker is someone who we've seen in the playoffs rise to that superstar level, but the Suns kind of missed that culture builder, and I think having a coach like Bud and then a player like Jimmy to kind of reinvigorate that team and give it a spark with their bench being better than what it was last year with guys like Royce O'Neal stepping in and kind of contributing their smaller roles, it would be so perfect to see Jimmy in Phoenix. Unfortunately, I will have to say the Warriors are one of those more realistic landing spots, which I do like. Another one which kind of stands out to me would be the Dallas Mavericks. Not only with Luka being out, but also the team's mid-sized contracts to kind of aggregate salaries, and then you kind of topple in one first-round pick, maybe a few seconds here or there. That could be enough to get it done with Jimmy being on this expiring deal. But other than those two landing spots, I don't see too many contenders that make sense for Jimmy's timeline. The Rockets, the Thunder, these are younger teams where it doesn't really make too much sense for me for them to pounce on that move for a 35-year-old who wants a long-term deal.
I think you guys added all the right points, and this is just a question from an amateur person who follows basketball, right? With the trade clause, if you accept it, is there like an unlimited amount of times you can accept a trade within a trade clause in the contract, or is there like a limit to that?
It's a
I'll be
trade.
honest, I don't understand that question.
No, he's saying
So,
like,
can you say, like, if you keep saying yes to a no trade clause, is there a certain point where you've said yes too many times?
I don't
no,
think so.
it's unlimited. It's whenever the contract ends.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure before I said something stupid. But
you can't even get traded multiple times in a year, anyways. So
yeah.
So
Yeah.
Bradley Beal, but if Bradley Beal hypothetically, if he gets traded to, let's just hypothetically throw this in a bucket, he gets traded to the Heat, and then the Heat decide, oh, let's trade him to the Spurs. They have to ask him again, like, hey, they have to ask him again. If he says yeah, he can go.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm that, and now I just want to make the point: why would Bradley Beal say no to Miami if Phoenix doesn't want him? I mean, he's not getting traded to Portland. He's not getting traded to Detroit. He's getting traded to freaking Miami, Florida with Pat Riley. Like, why would he say no to that if Phoenix doesn't want him? I mean, the Heat need no – I know they have Tyler Hero, and he's a pretty similar player to Bradley. But I don't think that really matters. Bradley Beal would still get his. I just think the Heat would have more reasons to say no about Bradley Beal than the Suns because they don't want to extend the guy. They still have to pay Bradley Beal down the road more. So it kind of ruins that point. If I'm the Heat, I'm saying at minimum, we'll make this deal if you give us Ryan Dunn. I'm not doing any other deal without Ryan Dunn, or this is stupid for us because why wouldn't we just extend Jimmy Butler at that point instead of bring Bradley Beal in? If you're getting Bradley Beal and Ryan Dunn, that's when the conversations become more sensical on their side. So just wanted to make that point. And is anything you guys?
I'm trying to see the Suns' first round pick availability.
Rockets.
The one they have is 2031, but unfortunately, they don't have their 2030 pick. So I'm not entirely sure to the Stepien rule if they can move that. So it'd have to be a few seconds. Ryan Dunn.
They can't.
Few seconds, Ryan Dunn. Let's get it done, man. Hey,
awesome.
And the Mavericks,
Bradley Beal, Ryan Dunn, a second.
The Mavericks lane spot's unlikely because to make the salary work, they would have to include one of Clay or PJ Washington and Najee Marshall with maybe a Jaden Hardy to get to the $48 million.
They have Maxi Kleber's deal.
It's only $11 million. I wish it was way more.
Well, Maxi is more than Najee.
Yeah, it is, but that's a great point. I'm using Kleba as like a base. Like he's gone no matter what. So Kleba's 11, Gafford's 13, gets to 24, only halfway there. So then to get the other 24 would be Klay Thompson's 15 or PJ's 15. I guess you 39, and then you get Najee Marshall gets to 47 or maybe 48 because he's got
too much to move. Too much.
Butler's not worth that. I'm sorry.
I agree.
Not.
If I'm the Mavericks, I'd rather keep the depth in that core.
I wouldn't hate Houston going to get him though.
If they can get him for cheap, yeah. I mean,
Fred, you could throw in Cam Whitmore.
Play Reed Shepherd, man.
Riv, I don't hate it, but the reason why I'm hesitant is because of how many young wings they have, like Tari, Eamon, Cam down the roster where they need development. And I think Jimmy being integrated would kind of take away their light and their opportunity, maybe stunt their development.
Maybe.
Reed Shepherd, man.
He's going to have a long-term deal. If you trade for him, you have him on contract for 4 years.
Maybe. Or he can remember when I don't know, actually. I don't know if you remember this. Remember when Reggie Miller was towards the end of his career with Indiana and you saw Ron Artest, Steven Jackson started to kind of come up? It could be like that, where like Reggie was kind of like chilling, and then in the playoffs, he's like one of their best players.
Right.
Like Jimmy could go there, regular season. You know, I'm talking about the early 2000 Indiana Pacers, where you have Jimmy come there regular season. He's kind of teaching them the ways, letting them do their thing. Then playoff time is like, all right, like the big dog is here. You know, but I get it. It's like it's a gamble for sure. You know, it's a gamble, and you don't want to ruin what Houston is doing right now. But Houston does have the salaries, and they wouldn't have to move much. Like maybe just Reed Shepard and Fred, or Fred and Cam
Yep.
Whitmore. Like some just not. You don't have to move Tari or Jabari. I don't believe you'll have to. Like I don't and Amon. They're not getting Amon, so you don't even have to worry about that.
Okay, so let me pose a question for you guys. Jimmy Butler listed 5 landing spots he prefers. 1's the Suns, 2's the Mavericks, 3's the Warriors, 4 is the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll need a small forward for a little bit. 5 is reportedly the Lakers. I don't
make that Cavs deal. What we doing?
How can they afford it?
Of those 5 teams, which landing spot makes the most sense for Jimmy, and which is the most likely to happen?
If you just told me Cleveland's in the deal and they can keep Garland, Mitchell, and Mobley and grab Jimmy Butler, they easily Cleveland. Like that's a team that all of a sudden you done stepped up and now you really have an opportunity to go to the finals. But realistic, I think, would be probably the Warriors.
I still think it's the Suns. I think there's a way better chance than people think that Bradley Beal would waive his no trade clause there. And I think Butler is a very seamless fit. And I think Riv made a great point. Jimmy Butler is not one of those stars who's begging for offensive maintenance. That's one of his greatest traits. He comes to Minnesota. He tried to defer to Karl Anthony Towns. He goes to Philly, tries to defer to Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. Jimmy Butler doesn't want to score 25 a game. That's never been his personality. He just wants to come in and be like a freaking awesome star role player. So I think that would be a great fit.
I think here's what's more intriguing for Miami: Wiggins, Kuminga, and somebody else, or Bradley Beal?
Wiggins, Kuminga, and someone else, without a doubt. Bradley Beal's 31 years old. He hasn't really brought anything different because I already have Tyler Hero. And
a
lot of those Warriors role players have not been maximized because they haven't had the opportunity to grow. And the Heat would give them that.
Because Wiggs is about 25, 28. Then you add Kuminga, that's about 8. So you're at 30.
That's a no-brainer. No-brainer.
Yeah, you add Moses Moody, who's at 13. You send them 3. I see the Heat like, no, we want that. Like we can develop Kuminga. We can still try to develop Moody, and you bring it. Wiggins is having a career year, so you're still getting a good player.
I wouldn't do that if I were the Warriors. I'm not sure if I would. That's a lot.
The Warriors wouldn't have enough. They'd only have $38 million to aggregate because Moses Moody's contract doesn't kick in until his rookie deal is done next year.
Add in Gary Payton, brother. He's at 9. Keep adding. Keep adding.
We're giving up everything for 35-year-old Jimmy Butler, man.
God damn it, John.
You would actually kind of be on the bubble. I think you would be able to make it work.
Here's like Wilder. I get it, but like outside of Wiggins, who are you giving up? For real.
I'm cool with Wiggins, Kuminga, and salary. I think that's a great deal for Miami, and I just think all of that together. You add Peyton and Moody. That's a lot. That's a lot for Jimmy Butler, man.
Moody doesn't play.
They say no to Lauri Markkanen in the summer. I know he's not Butler, but he's younger. And you have more security there.
Younger, more confident.
You do it for Jimmy Butler, who hasn't played 65 games since 2018.
No, yeah, because now Steph and Dre have put the pressure on you. They didn't put the pressure on you in the summer, which was their fault. Because you could have got Zach LaVine for Chris Paul's contract.
That would be an interesting situation, though, because Butler really hasn't gone to a team where he wasn't asked to be the alpha. So we don't really know how he would answer that because he was the leader in Philly. He was the leader in Minnesota. He was the leader in Miami. So maybe if he goes to a situation like that, maybe he would be held accountable. I just know in other situations, which might not be representative of this situation, he's always been kind of if you challenge me, I'm going to F you up. I mean, he did it to Spoelstra. So
him and Draymond would be funny. I'd be honest. That'd be must-see TV.
I think TMZ would be all over the place for that. And
we need to see that. That'd be so funny. Oh my god,
they would fit very well off of each other with the amount of shooting they'd have in the other 3 spots.
Yeah, for real.
The next player up, I'm pretty excited to talk about because I think it's Zach LaVine.
I want to talk. Can I take that one?
Yep.
Denver needs to go after Zach LaVine. Denver needs him. And the reason why is because I don't believe in anybody else outside of Nikola Jokic on that roster. Jamal Murray, he had his time being a championship number 2, but if you ask me, I don't think he's ever replicating that again. I don't think he's in the same shape as he used to be, and I just don't think he is a top 40-ish player. I don't think he's worth putting all of Nikola Jokic's window on Jamal Murray. I don't think it's worth it. Zach LaVine, He's in that category of a star that you're probably not going to give up a lot for, and Denver's not in position to give up a lot. But you bring in a Zach Lavine, one of the most athletic, efficient three-level scorers in the league. You get him motivated, inspired in a Denver situation. I think he would feast off Nikola Jokic. I think we are seeing 2019 Zach Lavine all over again next to Nikola Jokic. And if they get that Zach Lavine, Denver's back in the conversation because that's how gifted Zach Lavine is. He is one of the most gifted scorers in the league. And I think Michael Porter, honestly, what I would do is I would call Chicago and say, look, we'll give up Jamal Murray in this deal. And maybe Chicago bites on that. I wouldn't want to give up Michael Porter Jr.'s size and catch and shoot situation. I would not give that up. I would bring in Zach Lavine and make the bet that he's going to bring more upside in the short term than Jamal Murray. So I think it would be a great fit. And I think Zach Lavine in a winning situation is a different guy. So
I got to
I'm
take
a believer
here. So on one hand, I do agree. The Nuggets need two things. One, they need depth in the front court. Well, actually, that's two. One, they need second shot creation alongside Nikola. They don't have enough in that second unit. Secondly, they also badly need front court depth because they have absolutely none. And with Aaron Gordon out, it's been pretty abhorrent how much they lack on that side. But if you're the Denver Nuggets, you cannot trade Jamal Murray over Michael Porter Jr. for multiple reasons. One, Porter Jr.'s length and size is useful, but I think we all understand there is a ceiling to his game as a shot creator, and swapping Murray, who is a consistent and clear playoff riser throughout his career, for Zach Lavine isn't that much of a difference to where it just solves the lack of shot creation. I think Lavine and Murray together would kind of add that mix of shot creation and shooting, which would solve that hole. But with Michael Porter Jr., we understand with his injury history and that ceiling to his game, in some ways, he is a ticking time bomb with his health. And he has been healthy for the most part the last couple of years since he missed that 2023 season. I'm not banking on that if I'm the Nuggets. I would rather trade him now while he has been healthy and still productive, 16 points, 38% from three.
18 and a half.
18 and a half, thank you. Even better. So we're already rising the trade value right here. And you use that with his age, 25 years old, and that's kind of the sweetener for Chicago to take that salary. If he's hurt, it helps their draft odds. So they're not really going to have to suffer the consequences of an injured Porter Jr. in the playoffs. Does Zach Lavine have injury history, injury concerns? He sure does. But I trust him to be healthy more than Michael Porter Jr., just based off the concern of kind of Porter Jr.'s back and lumbar spine surgery that's led to ankle issues and athleticism declines. So if I'm the Nuggets, I'm going to sacrifice some size and length with Porter Jr. being 6'10" with a good wingspan, but I've still got Aaron Gordon at the 4, and I've got Christian Brown at the 3. The real question to me is what we're going to do with that front court depth in those 10 minutes Nikola Jokic now on the floor. But I think most importantly for the Nuggets, you do this deal to get Lavine and Jamal Murray in that backcourt, and now you've got yourself one of the best scoring duos. And quite frankly, I think this is one thing you missed. Jamal Murray has been able to rise as a playmaker at times in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
If you trade him, I don't trust Zach Lavine to take that passing mantle. So I think you need the two together. Otherwise, I'd rather just keep Murray and Porter Jr. together and not make that deal altogether.
That's a great idea if I thought I was getting Jamal Murray from 2 years ago.
Ooh.
I'm going to be honest with you. Michael Porter Jr. hasn't been the same player from 2 years ago either. He hasn't been the shooter, and he has not been the defender either. So neither player has been the same since then. Want to know why? When you lost Bruce Brown, there was no longer a six-man kind of breathing down Michael Porter Jr.'s neck. If you don't hold yourself accountable, if you don't make these little plays happen, if you don't box out, if you don't close out hard, if you don't play with discipline, you're going to be benched, and Bruce Brown's going to close this game. With that player, with that sixth starter being out the lineup, Michael Porter Jr. hasn't been held accountable in the same way. And I think we've seen defensively and even on the offensive end as well, those limitations kind of rear its ugly head more now that you don't have that depth behind them.
I think Riv go.
Zach Lavine to me seems like a lock in Denver. Whether it's for Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr., I don't know. But I think Zach Lavine's skill set really provides something that Denver needs, just a bona fide 3-level scorer with that freak athleticism, a guy who can make tough. This is what you think Cam Thomas is right here. Zach Lavine is that dude. I mean, this dude is one of the most, like I mentioned, one of the most gifted scorers in basketball. And I think the difference between him and MPJ is, Zach is a little bit healthier, but watching him in Chicago, when he plays through injuries more than Michael Porter Jr., but that also sees a defect in his game. And you can see him when he's injured, he really struggles in that court, but he'll play through it. You kind of don't want that. But Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are weird because Jamal Murray has been dead ass whack this year. Like genuinely just not even an all-star level point guard. And
He never was in the regular season. So.
Yeah, but he's been a low end. Like I think he's been a low end all-star level point guard, like pushing it.
He's
like
never a
Conley
replacement.
vibes in Memphis.
He's never even a replacement like Conley.
I mean, replacements are so whatever. He's in the West. Like look who's in front of him. Like Steph, it was Westbrook at the time. Like it's just some dudes, James Harden. Yeah, he did. It's wildly enough. Don't know how he did, but he did get it. But I think Jamal last year, and I think what Wilder's alluding to, they played his team and they locked Jamal up. Jamal was pretty ass last year in the playoffs. And now you're coming into the regular season. You haven't been great. So now this isn't just something that happened once. You also wasn't great in Olympics. So this has been like 5, 6, 7 months of just straight ass you've been putting out. Wow. Just straight garbage you've been putting out. And now you're like, but I think Zach Lavine solves a lot of problems. I do think he solves a lot of problems. And I think offensively, he definitely gives you something that you need. I would trade Michael Porter Jr. for him. I don't think that backup center spot gets filled because, unfortunately, you pay Zeke Naji. He's not good. Darren Holmes, somebody who maybe could have filled that. He's out for the year. And you don't really, have anybody else. DeAndre Jordan can't move. Like, so it's outside of jumping up straight in the air for a lob, he really can't do anything. So Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, still trying to figure it out. But I make that Zach Lavine move 10 times out of 10.
I want to add I think people are underestimating how important Michael Porter Jr. is to that offense still. I still think having a guy who's just freaking automatic off the ball at 6'10", somebody who isn't generally a great defender, but in the playoffs, he had some good defensive moments, especially against Miami in the finals. So you're not getting that same length and upside as you are with a Jamal Murray, who I don't think is going to be the same at all this year, and Zach Lavine together. And the reason why I don't think Jamal Murray is going to be the same this year, we just talked about it with Luka. He's been dealing with calf things forever now, and he hasn't rested. He hasn't rested for multiple summers now, and he's playing on a bad calf. He looks slow. He looks 5 years older than he is right now. And I think that is not going to change this year. And I think every year matters in the Jokic window. Michael Porter Jr. is playing some of the better basketball in his career right now. And he puts Zach Lavine, who I think is a more talented player than Jamal Murray, but also in the short term, I trust Zach Lavine in just in a motivated situation to elevate his game next to Jokic. So now in the playoffs, you have this freak 3-level scoring athlete. You have 2 wings of size you could throw onto people. And then Aaron Gordon comes back and Jokic. It's a more balanced short-term team. And I don't think Jamal Murray is going to give enough in the short term.
All right, can I say something? If you swap Jamal Murray for Zach Lavine, this is what you're doing.
Yo, this shit puts that back. Yeah. Oh my God, that's a funny ass meme.
It's so funny.
Yo, it's the pictures. It was just the fact that somebody said he ain't this shit but step back.
I disagree though. It's a funny meme, but I disagree.
It's a funny ass meme. Wow, that's a good one.
I disagree for 2 reasons. One, Jamal Murray is proving chemistry of Jokic, and 2, his ability to step up after not being an awesome regular season player. The Timberwolves series was an indictment on him because Jaden McDaniels matched up quite well, but you're not always going to go up against Jaden McDaniels.
Damn right he did.
At the end of the day, I believe in Jamal Murray more in the playoffs than Zach Lavine. And when you're the Nuggets, you're looking at how we can get back into that tier 1 of contention with the Celtics and maybe the Thunder in that group now as well. I don't think that move is going to quite propel you there, but I do believe sacrificing Porter Jr. for Lavine. Lavine's been the better shooter this year at 43%. He has the same capability to come off screens and hit tough shots, but I believe he gives you more off the dribble to extend these possessions. He's a better passer, better decision maker, better finisher, basically better at everything offensively except that movement shooting, but I still believe in Lavine to be an elite shooter off of catch and shoot and tough movement shots. I think that's a testament to the way that he's made his shots this year at 44% from deep. But yeah, just to reiterate that point, I am not trading for Zach Lavine if I'm giving up Jamal Murray. I can't. I can't risk giving up a player who in the postseason has routinely averaged 30 points and raised his level of performance, where Zach Lavine has never played in the playoffs in his career. Actually, he did. He played one series, but it's a rather forgettable one. So
I don't think it's an unfair point. I just disagree. I believe it's Zach next to Jokic. I just do. And I also believe Jamal Murray is not going to be Jamal Murray this year because he's played 2 straight years on a bad calf. So
I think he's washed.
I think he's washed in short term. Yeah.
James, Jamal Murray does have a calf concern. Don't you think Zach Lavine, who missed 57 games last year and through his career has routinely played through injuries as well, and his injury risk is just as large, if not even bigger?
Yes, in a way. Yes, in a way, but Zach Lavine right now is far more dynamically athletic than Jamal Murray is.
He's better.
And he's just better. He's a better player, better talent. And I don't think he's a playoff choker. I think he played in Chicago his entire career. Sorry, Riv.
You're not lying. That's just funny. Like, yeah, he had one playoff series. He was hurt, and he played like shit. So he has been since, So I don't blame that. I do think Zach's a better scorer by far. Like, it isn't even close. So that give you that different dynamic. I really think whether you trade either Jamal or MPJ, though, you're still going to be fucked regardless, just because of like you don't have front court depth, and then if you lose MPJ, you're screwed.
That's why I would keep MPJ.
Yeah, but if you lose Jamal, it's just Westbrook and Zach. God bless your soul.
You know what? I think even if the Nuggets make this move, they're still going to have issues.
What if they trade for Jimmy Butler?
Their backup, I mean, the Jimmy Butler trade would definitely help, but how are you going to aggregate that salary is my question, because there's not many mid-sized contracts in this team with the exception of Najee Marshall, and I think that's it. Yeah, it's just Najee. Najee making $8 million and Aaron Gordon's 22. So I wouldn't make that move. It's not practical to me financially. But I will say this, even if the Nuggets get Zach Lavine, they keep Jamal Murray, and they do everything they want them to, they're still going to have a massive issue off their bench. They have absolutely nobody in their front court. Zeke Nash, they give a 4-year contract to, and he's been unplayable. And the projection of him being a 3-and-D forward has not panned out whatsoever due to injuries and probably a lack of confidence. On the other hand, this team went out and signed Dario Saric this offseason. And despite me being excited to watch my Italian stallion go out there and be the guy he was in Philadelphia, has not been the guy he was in Philadelphia, has been unplayable. And in the 10 games that he did play, it was not good at all. And as Riff highlighted, he was bad in Golden State. He's probably been just as, if not worse, with Nuggets. So their best backup big is a 36-year-old DeAndre Jordan. With that in mind, this team without Aaron Gordon will go nowhere if that is their front court rotation. Nikola Jokic, DeAndre Jordan, and Peyton Watson playing a size and a position up. So I do think this roster has had a lot of different issues, and largely it's been because of poor and questionable decisions. The Zeke Naji contract. Of course, Daron Holmes, he's supposed to be that backup big. He plays well in Summer League. He's someone who projects to be that Naz Reid type big off the bench, and tragically tears his Achilles. So it's been some bad luck as well along the way. And hopefully Holmes gets back next year. He can be my glorious king. He can fix that issue. But until then, I mean, this is a huge issue for Denver.
Glorious.
Yeah, you have a lot of problems.
I'm a huge fan of him. Huge fan. He reminds me of Naz Reid.
Okay.
Yep. Naz Reid.
Got it.
Yeah, my team has a lot of problems too, so I can't really make fun of you too much. But I think what do you guys think before we transition to the next star? Just for duration purposes, should we do one last big name for this series?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So the last name I want to bring up is
the Kyle
Brandon
Kuzma
Ingram. Kyle Kuzma.
Not even trolling. This is a genuine question. I know Brandon Ingram is better than Cam Johnson. I know he is. I'm not saying he isn't. Who's a bigger name on the market right now?
Ooh.
I think Cam Johnson, just because he has, but it's a less fun name to talk about. It's just because NBA teams can just imagine themselves throwing in Cam Johnson.
No, I agree. I'm saying we talk about Brandon. I just wanted to ask that question to how low the market is for BI right now. Like,
It's Loke. He's on expiring contract.
but even Jimmy's market still. Well, he's also better. So never mind. Go ahead.
Brandon Ingram also, he just has that problem where he has the skill set of a number one, but he isn't a number one. And if you move him off of a number one, is he a good enough off-ball scorer to be a legitimately valuable number two? It's the DeMar DeRozan, Julius Randle crisis, right? You're really good. You can make a lot of money. You can make a couple all-star teams, but you're not quite that. But
You know
you
him.
can't backtrack to be something a little less than that. It's a weird, It's like a purgatory type player. But speaking of that, so where should Brandon Ingram end up? John, you can go.
Damn. I don't want to add another meme in here. Riff, can you go first, please?
All right. Damn. Honestly, I don't even know. Like, Golden State, like, just Houston, like, stay in New Orleans. Like, you mentioned it. He has number one skills, but he's not a number one. He hasn't, like, we've seen him last year towards the end of the year, shown that aggressiveness to lead the Pelicans into the potential into the play-in. Unfortunately, they just couldn't get it done. This Pelicans team really hasn't given you anything to really be excited about after the season starts because they're always banged up. And I'm looking at BI and I'm also looking at Zion too. Like, these are two guys that their games don't kind of fit and just they fit in peculiar spots. Like, it's really hard to really build a team around those two guys. So if you can't build a team around them, you have to kind of fit them into situations. And I'm looking around the league, and for Brandon Ingram, I mean, maybe the Clippers, like, that would be cool. Like, just another guy that can add on to the scoring punch, can savor the moments. I really don't have stay in New Orleans, but they haven't given us any indication that they want to they want to extend BI. So it's like, where do you want to go? Like, Atlanta seems like a spot where you can come in, but then they have Jalen Johnson, who's kind of better than you.
Yeah. He's not
DeJounte Murray
He's
didn't
better.
work. Why would
So it's like they got Dyson, and then Dyson, he said something that really stuck with me. He's like, there's a curse in New Orleans. So it makes me feel like if BI left New Orleans, then what? Is he going to be a much better player? I think San Antonio would be dope, though. I think, adding another scorer next to Victor, you kind of establish Victor as the guy. You probably don't have to give up much if you're, San Antonio. I think a swap for him and Devin Vassell would be perfect. I think Brandon Ingram's a better player than Devin Vassell, and I think he kind of can give you what Devin Vassell can. That's a 3-level efficient scorer that can play make. Because I think Brandon Ingram is one of the most underrated playmaking wings in basketball. Like, he's a really good playmaker. He can read defense as well. He understands double teams. He understands spacing. Yeah. So I think a swap there would be cool, and San Antonio doesn't have to give up much. But I don't really see a lot of destinations for Brandon Ingram personally.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough conversation. I'm trying to get this graphic up to really help kind of break down Brandon Ingram's trade market here, because like you guys both highlighted, he's not someone who's established himself in the playoffs. Last year he was hurt, and so not a lot of teams are really like jumping at the bid to kind of bring him in.
Everybody a year ago loved the guy, though. It's so crazy.
I
mean, a year ago, people told me that you couldn't trade Karl Anthony Towns for Brandon Ingram. And now Karl Anthony Towns is just like the shit. And Brandon Ingram, everybody's like, who's that? It's crazy. Honestly, how much that's changed.
It's just the honeymoon phase. I think Cat's had a renowned season. He's been really good at the Knicks. It's the honeymoon phase where he's not going to be judged until the playoffs come around. And that's part of the equation. The few teams that I think really do fit well for Brandon Ingram are all teams with good coaching that will hold him accountable. It's not just, does he play quick enough? Does he play fast enough as a decision maker? Because he is an ISO-centric, tough shot-making wing with a really dynamic skill set. All right, you're going to defend with energy. You're going to be lethargic off the ball. And so, like, honestly, like, this is kind of my impression of Brandon Ingram's trade market.
This guy's cooking with the memes.
I'm going to say that the best situations for him would be a place like Houston, which doesn't have a lead scorer, but they have Ime Udoka. They have an elite defense. He can kind of fill in. He's going to be, honestly, their lead shot creator. And then you get to decide whether or not you want to extend him based off of this half-season stretch. But like we talked about before, Jimmy, you have Amon, you have Tari. neither of those guys have been in the starting lineup. So now you're going to take away more minutes from them to get that to a player who hasn't proven to be a high floor raiser consistently. He has at times when Zion's been out the lineup. The other team that I do like quite a bit is the Lakers, ironically.
Oh, I
That's
hate you. I
shot
wanted to
creation.
say them.
And they had him for a couple of years when he was young. And now you're looking at D'Angelo Russell's contract, someone who does not fit into their new system with Jay Redick. And I think that would be honestly the best situation for him with Austin Reeves, LeBron, and Anthony Davis. The last landing spot that I will leave you guys off on is Miami Heat. If they move off of Jimmy Butler, you're going to have a need next to Tyler Hero at the 3. You have Bam Adebayo. I think he would be a nice bridge to the next era of Miami basketball, where he's still young enough in his 20s to kind of fill in into that long-term outlook maybe. And if not, then this is a 1-year contract and you can let him go.
I hate how you guys covered pretty much everything because I was just about to set up the Lakers idea by showing my Brandon Ingram Lakers Photoshop joke, but that didn't
Oh,
work
you can
out.
do that. You can
So
do that.
no, it ruins the point of it now. It's over. But
Oh,
I think the Lakers are a great
get a
idea.
moment in
That's the
time
team
before
I
that.
thought of. They're going after guys like Zach Lavine, and I think the next guy after that would be a Brandon Ingram. And just the last team that I thought of, because I think if we look at Brandon Ingram in the light of, look, nobody winning really wants him, I think we're in a more realistic place. So a team I thought of was Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn has pretty easy salaries to make something work. You make a flyer on Brandon Ingram. He's probably not dynamic enough to affect your tanking. So you just get him. You see what he is. If he's worth extending, if not, great. You free cap space. You move forward with the top draft pick. Or he does work out pretty well, and you still get a pretty high draft pick.
Yep.
And you pair that top draft pick with some veterans who aren't going to put all the pressure on you. Like if you have Cooper Flay again, you don't want the kid to be overwhelmed offensively, which he might be at the NBA level early on. You have a guy like Brandon Ingram who eases the pressure a little bit alongside Cam Thomas. That makes a lot of sense to me. So maybe Brandon Ingram could be kind of a little flyer for a team like Brooklyn.
Yep.
So I think that's the Brandon Ingram topic. Honestly, like Brandon Ingram is one of those. I'm a fan of Brandon Ingram, or I was, but now it's just kind of
Me too.
depressing talking about it.
Yep.
Just the nobody wants me meme. That's tough. And all right, before we end this show, guys, is there any last thoughts you guys want to give?
Yeah. De'Aaron Fox, will he be a Sacramento King in 2 years? Buying or selling that?
Selling.
He'll be a
Selling.
king. I think.
He'll be a Spur in 2 years.
Wow.
Houston would be freaking awesome for De'Aaron
It would
Fox.
be nice. But what's the difference between Houston with De'Aaron and Sacramento with De'Aaron?
They got a
Ime
better coach, in
Udoka
my
on the
opinion.
defense.
Houston
right?
has Amen Thompson.
Better
Ime
defense and
Udoka
they're
and the
deeper.
Rockets defense, right? I still don't look at them as a contender if they go all in and trade half of their young players like Reed Shepard,
I agree.
Whitmore, and maybe even another guy to get De'Aaron. I like De'Aaron. I think he's right now a top 25 player, maybe even higher when he's really hitting his threes. But he's not a top 10 player. And I don't think he's a high end or a clear number 1. I think he's number 2. Şengün's number 2 to me as well. So then I think Houston would be stacking the deck with number 2s without a clear, dynamic top 10 player who can override some of their deficiencies in the offensive end.
Houston has a lot of assets, though, and I'm not sure if they acquired De'Aaron, they're just broke and they can't get anything else done. I think Houston right now is a bottom half offense in the NBA.
Yep.
They're a top 2 defense. They lack perimeter shot making. If you get a De'Aaron Fox, you bring him in as your primary creator. You're literally just moving Jalen Green to De'Aaron Fox. Houston's already a top 3 seed. That's
Yep.
that can make the conference finals at minimum. Kind of like Devin Booker with the Suns. Like I think that's the type of ceiling that De'Aaron Fox could have with them. And that's not even considering what Amen Thompson could become. And I think he's one of those kind of like a young Jaylen Brown, just a flyer, future all NBA type upside player. And if that goes your way and you have De'Aaron Fox and Şengün and you still have assets to go for somebody, or you choose to upgrade with De'Aaron Fox plus stuff for a superstar, it gives you a lot of options. I think this is the Sacramento Kings with defense and better depth. So I think that De'Aaron Fox and Houston would be awesome.
I've got 2 landing spots and maybe a third that James would like. The first 2, and these are the top 2, The Spurs number 1 with Wemby. Long term, that's a perfect fit. De'Aaron's number 2. Wemby's your primary creator, and I think they work well off one another, the two-man game. Another situation I think is Denver. Fox's explosiveness and his 3-level scoring capability alongside Nikola Jokic would really fit him better than Jamal. I think that would upgrade their offense. That's the one-on-one swap I'd be all for if they added a little appetizer.
Sacramento laughs at you.
If you're the Kings, Jamal Murray and a first-round pick just doesn't make any sense. Makes no sense.
I see what you're trying to do.
Yep.
Trying to get
I'm
your team
not thinking about this from Sacramento's point of view selfishly. I'm thinking where he fits best. And the last team that I really like is Minnesota with Anthony Edwards, but outside Julius Randle and how many first-round picks the T-Wolves got, I don't think it's quite enough to really catch Sacramento's eye. And if I'm the Kings at that point, I think I might just rather stick foot with the situation we committed to. We knew we weren't going to be a top 2 or 3 team in the West. We knew we were going to be in that second to third tier, and that's something that is fine for right now after being in a playoff drought for 16 years.
I don't think overthinking it. It's San Antonio, man.
San Antonio's number 1, and they have the assets and they have the picks.
Yeah.
They don't have to give up much either.
I totally agree with that. I'm trying to think, would Minnesota, I don't think they would win like a negotiation deal, but what would be considered not an awful package? Would Jaden
Julius
McDaniels,
Randle, Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon, and 2 first-round picks if
we don't have 2 firsts to trade. We're screwed.
Do you have 1 first?
I also don't think that money would work.
No.
Do you have 1? You have 2028. Can you move that? No.
Shit. I think there's a tough lineup because I just would prefer to bet on Dillingham's upside plus Nas and McDaniels than just Fox and nothing else. So that would be hard.
Fox and Rudy Gobert were Jaden McDaniels.
But Jaden McDaniels would be gone in that trade. Randall would.
Good.
Oh, I thought you'd move Randall.
I think the only competitive offer we would give to them would be like a Nas sign and trade plus McDaniels plus Rob and something else. I think that's the only deal Sacramento might look at and not scoff at. And if
I'm Monty McNair, I'm not interested.
Is that 3-team? I mean, I don't know. It's tough. I think De'Aaron's really good. I don't know.
Right. The best package would be the Spurs putting together 3 first-round picks, and then Kellen Johnson's salary, Harrison Barnes' salary, or Zach Collins, one of the two. And then he put in Jeremy Shohan with one more young player.
I'm trying to keep Sohan. I'd send Vassell, man.
I would keep Castle, but I don't think Castle and Shohan are going to fit well enough.
I think Castle's a star, man. I'm keeping that guy.
Yeah, I think you have to pick one of the two, and Castle's the better player.
Yeah, I'm keeping Castle for sure. I try to keep Sohan, though, man.
Vassell is replaceable. You got him in 3 firsts. I mean, him in 3 firsts isn't awful.
Vassell can be replaceable. He also hasn't been healthy, though. So I would give him maybe if the Kings say we're not doing this deal without Vassell, you do it. But I still like what Vassell brings as a secondary scorer. You're going to need someone to kind of play that two-guard role, and he can play it quite well. On the offensive end, at least. He's not quite the defender we thought.
Yeah, I think De'Aaron Fox market's going to be interesting because I think this is something that is going to be more of a summer thing. I don't think this is by any chance going to happen at the deadline. But in the summer with some of the contract stuff with De'Aaron Fox, I think if there was a time for him to get traded, it would be this summer. So it's going to be very interesting because I think in a way, if Sacramento can get a great package for De'Aaron Fox, I think it might be best for both sides because I don't think Sabonis and Fox is ever going to get the job done. I don't think they will. So at that point, it's like, do you want to be perennially solid but not good enough or pivot? And honestly, if you're Sacramento, mediocrity is like peak. So maybe you just keep it. I don't know. But yeah, that's where I stand there. Well, I think sounds like it's the end of the show. So that does it for episode 9 of Objectively Biased. One of our longest episodes, but super fun one. We super appreciate you all for listening. We hope you all had an excellent Christmas, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace.